Hey, this is Joe from SoFi, and in this video, we are going to export WooCommerce orders to Google Sheets using WP All Export. So to get started, we'll go down here to New Export, and we'll select WooCommerce orders from the pull-down. You can see here, I have 5,758 orders that will be exported. And then down here, we have some filtering options. So let's say, for example, I wanted to filter by state. So I can say if the state equals California, I can add a rule. And now we have 623 orders because that's how many orders we're creating in California. Now I could add other rules for other things, like for example, my SKU. So let's say I want to see all of the orders that were created where they purchased something where the SKU is million, right? And we're not saying equals million, we're saying contains million, because I have a whole product line where the SKU has million in it, but we have like million 532, million 534, etc., right? So the SKU only contains million. So that's the whole product line. So let's see. And there we go. Now I can add more rules, right? I can combine these. So I can give it a date range. And for example, I can make an export that's, all of the orders in the last week from California that were from my product line of million or whatever I need to do, right? And we have different operators like and or. So I could say, give me all of the orders that were created in New York or California, whatever we need to do. So in this case, we're going to come back to filters later in the video. We'll leave this blank for now, and we're just going to export everything and go ahead and customize our export file. Okay, so this is what we get by default. We can go over here. We can drag and drop to add new items. We can drag and drop to add new columns. We can go over here to add field, and we can search. For example, I can look for the order total, select that, and save it. And then we can drag items out to get rid of them or move them to rearrange, just like that. And there we go. So let's get rid of order key, and let's check out the rest of the data over here that we can add. So this is all of our order data. Then down here, we have our customer information like first name and last name. But, let's say we want to combine these, right? So we can use a custom export field. And this way we can get just one column called name. And then we can have our billing first name and our billing last name together. Just put a space in between these, save it, preview. So you can see what we've done is we've combined these fields over here using a custom export field. Custom export fields are awesome. You can do tons of stuff with them. For example, we can add a field like for our address, right? All of our address information for our customer is all kind of spread out in different columns. Well, let's say I want to make it nice and clean. So we're just going to add here, comma space, city, comma space, state, comma space, and our postcode. Save it, and there we go. And there is our address information. Now, we can also do some pretty interesting stuff over here with PHP, right? So let's say I want to take my address. I have my address information over here, right? And what I want to do is I want to basically send this to Google Maps, right? I don't want the address. I want to have the Google Maps link. So what I can do is I can simply wrap this in brackets like this. And then I can write a new function called get Google Maps link. Open it with a parentheses, close the parentheses. And this, this is PHP, right? So all we're going to do, everything in these brackets, because process is PHP, it's going to call this function, and it's going to pass in my address information. And then whatever gets returned by this function is going to be in this column here, in that cell. So then we go down here to my function editor, and we can just make a new function. We'll call it function get Google Maps link. We're going to pass in the address, open it up, and then over here, new stuff. So obviously we don't have time in this demo to go over exactly how I'd write this function, but there's plenty of demos online. Check out our documentation. We have a code snippets page that tells you how to do all of this with some examples to get you started. But basically, right, you just go up here, tell it what function, tell it what data you're going to give it, and then you write the function over here. And there's another way. So let's say, in this case, I'm combining all of the data, right? But let's just say, for example, I need to pass just the customer user ID into a custom function, right? So I go over here and I just go, customer user ID, pass the data. My function is just going to take the customer user ID, pass it into my function that I specified down below. So there's two ways to do to pass your data through a PHP function. One is right here. The second way is over here. So very powerful. Lots of people are doing some very interesting stuff with that. In our case, though, we're just going to keep the address like this, nice and simple, and we'll save. So let's preview, make sure it didn't mess anything up. And it looks good. Okay, so that is our customer information over here. Let's check out the rest of our data. We have our product information. So if you notice here, we have one row per order, right? Now, what happens if, one of these orders, they ordered 2 items? How do we handle that in our CSV? Well, I'll tell you how we handle it in WPL export. A bunch of options here. So by default, we're going to change our export. So now instead of one row per order, we have one row per order item, right? These are the same order ID, but different SKUs. So they purchased different products in this order. They have 2 products in this one order, right? So what we can do down in our advanced options over here, we can disable fill in empty columns. Now we go back and now it's a little bit more clear what's going on, right? All of this data is empty. We have the commas here that for my custom export field. And then you can see here that this person ordered 1 product, this person ordered 2, and this is the second product that they ordered. The other option is we can disable display each product in its own row. When we do this, now each product is going to be in its own column. See, SKU 1, SKU 2. This person ordered 2 products, this person ordered 1. So we'll leave it like this for this export here. Feel like this is kind of clean and that's what I want. Let's keep checking out our product information. So we have our product name that we can add in there. Pretty useful. Item cost. Continuing down, we have more product data like regular price, sale price, total sales, stock information, product taxonomies. If we had some WooCommerce extensions that were adding custom fields with data in them, that would show up down here for our product information, for our custom fields for the products, attributes like size and color, and then some advanced information like, shipping dimensions and things like that. Continuing down, we have tax and shipping, fees and discounts for the orders, any notes attached to the order, any refunds that went through for the order, custom fields on the orders themselves. Up here, we're looking at, for this custom field section over here, let me close all these. So this custom field section, this is for the products. This custom field section is for orders. And then other, this is where we just kind of put like kind of advanced, not super useful, but maybe you need it kind of order data that you can export. So that's all of our order information that we can export just by drag and drop. And remember, if you can't find anything over here, you can go to the add field and just search for it. Then down here in export type, we have some different spreadsheet options. You can export to Excel if you want to instead of CSV. For us, it doesn't matter because it's all going to Google Sheets anyway. And then over here, we have XML feeds. So you can export to XML if you wanted to as well. Check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. If you're interested in this, we have a lot of videos on that. For us, we're going to stick to our CSV and we are going to continue. Okay, this is our settings page. So we have our scheduling options over here, right? So pretty easily we can set this up. So now this export is going to run every Monday at midnight. That means, once we open up a Zapier, every Monday at midnight, this sheet's going to get updated. Now this service here, where you can point and click and set your export, for every, weekday or, every month. This service from us costs $9 a month. The other way to do it over here is with manual scheduling, and you do this with cron jobs. So basically you set 2 cron jobs for every order export that you want to run. And the first one is the trigger URL. Cron is going to trigger whenever you want the export to start. So if it's every Monday at midnight, you set your cron job to run every Monday at midnight. And this is the URL for the cron job. So the processing URL, you're going to have this run every 2 minutes. So no matter how often you want the export to run, the processing URL is going to be set for a cron job to run every 2 minutes. And the reason for that is when you're running this export or your imports in the background, without the browser keeping that export process alive, your server is going to kill the process. It's going to kill it probably after about 2 minutes. So what this processing URL does is it goes and it checks, hey, did this export finish successfully? And if it did, it does nothing. And if the export did not finish successfully, then it just restarts it. And it just does this every 2 minutes until the export's complete. So you can learn more about cron jobs over here. They're pretty simple. They're not too hard to figure out. But if you just want to sign up for a nice point-and-click service, that's $9 a month, and that's over here. So you can combine scheduling with some of these other features down here. The most common combination would be export orders once. So the way this works with this combination here, every Monday this export's going to run, and it's going to only export the orders that were created since the last time this ran, which should be last Monday. Combine this with Zapier, and now every week we get a nice export doing something, right? Whatever we need to every week. So we can then send an email, attaching our export file. Hey, these are the sales every week, and send it to our sales team, etc. Right? Tons of interesting stuff you can do with that. I'm going to let you go ahead and figure out exactly what you need to do. You can check out our documentation, our videos. We have a lot of stuff that goes into specifics. This video is going to focus on how to set up the integration between the two, and then you can decide what exactly you need to do beyond that. So we're just going to do a simple export, run it once, and then update it. So we'll turn our scheduling options off. We have some other ones over here like real-time export. So you can export each WooCommerce order in real time as they're completed. We can only export orders that have been modified since the last export. These are pretty self-explanatory, right? Like if I turn this on, every time I get an order, the export runs. If I hook it up to Zapier, I can send an email every time I get an order, etc. Right? We're going to leave this off. Only export orders that have been modified since the last export. Also pretty self-explanatory. Down here we have client mode. You saw me messing around with some PHP functions. Obviously, we don't want to let non-admins run PHP code on our website, right? Pretty obvious why we don't want to do that. So with client mode, what you can do is you can enable this, and then you can let clients come into your site. They get a limited version of WPL export, and they can just go in, they can run exports, and they can download the export file, but they can't edit them and they can't create new ones. Check out our documentation, check out our videos. We have a lot of information on client mode. Pretty powerful feature. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to run our export. This is going to take a few minutes. We'll let it go and we will come back when it's finished. Okay, so our export is complete. Let's go back over here to our Manage Exports page. All right, so our ID is 40. The next step is we want to get this sheet to be overwritten with all of the information in this export. So to do that, we're going to go over here to Zapier, and we're going to select Create a Zap. Now there's two things here. We have a trigger and an action. So the trigger is going to be WPL export, finishing an export, and the action is going to be replace a file in Google Drive. So we'll go over here to trigger, and we're going to search for WP all export. There you go. And the event is going to be new export file. So real-time exports, that is what we're talking about over there. Like new order is created. Just that one order will be exported automatically, one by one. So that's a real-time export. We're going to go for new export file. And we'll continue. And then over here, our account, I've already linked my account for the site. You can check out our documentation. We're at Zapier. We have some videos on this. But the way to link it is you basically go to here to all export settings. We have our Zapier integration API key. So we give it the API key and our domain name over here. And that's what's going to allow us to link WPL export on my site in here in Zapier. Again, you can check out the documentation or some videos if you want to, a step-by-step walkthrough for that. I've already set it up over here. And then we'll continue. Now we're going to test our trigger. What that's going to do is it's going to contact my site and it's going to pull down this record over here. And this is our most recent export. And that's what it is. You can see here we have 5,700 orders that we've exported. Okay, so we'll continue with our selected record. Okay, we're going to go to Google Drive. And our event is going to be replace file. So we have move file, replace file, and upload file. So for upload file, every time that export runs, it's going to create a new spreadsheet which maybe you want to do, right? In this case, I just want to replace it. So every time that export runs, that spreadsheet is going to be the most recent version of my export file. Okay, so I'm going to select replace file. I'm going to continue, and then I'm going to choose my account. There it is. Now, I've already linked my account here. Again, there's documentation on Zapier. It's pretty easy to link your account. You can probably figure it out yourself. But if not, check out our documentation, check the Zapier documentation, check our YouTube channel. Okay, so I've selected my account. I'm going to continue. And now what we have to do is we have to link it to my order sheet up here. So Drive is just going to be my Google Drive. Leave the folder blank. File to replace. That's going to be order sheet, my top one up there. File. We're going to select export file, exists but not shown. Convert to document, true. So what this is going to do is if yes, if true, we will tell Google to convert this into an editable document, a Google Sheet. Okay, a file name. We're going to just call this order sheet. And we're good. Okay, so let's continue and let's test it. And what this is doing is it is sending the replacement file to Google Drive up here. So when this is complete, we'll see that update. Okay, there we go. And here's all of our information. So let's go ahead. Let's call this order sheet update. And we'll publish that. Okay, and this is on. So now every time this export runs, this sheet's going to update. So what we want to do is let's go ahead and let's edit our settings for this. Let's add a filter and rerun our export. So right now we have 5,758 orders in there. Let's add a filter for state. So billing state equals CA 623. Perfect. Save my export. And we'll run this. Now this is going to take a few minutes. We'll let it go and we'll come back when it's finished. Okay, the export is complete. So now this data is being sent to Zapier and this sheet is going to update here any minute. So let's go ahead and pop in and there it is. So we should have 600 and something orders in here. And there we go. So every time this export runs, this is going to be updated with our spreadsheet. So that is all it takes to export WooCommerce orders to Google Sheets using WP All Export. We have a lot of different things that you can do with Zapier. I highly recommend you check out their service. They have integrations with over 5,000 other apps besides Google Sheets. And you don't just have to do one action, right? So we can go back over here to this app and we can add more actions. I can then send an email, right? I can add this file to Google Docs. I can add it to, Dropbox, Zoho, whatever else, and I can send emails all over the place. I can hook it up to external APIs, whatever you need to do. Very, very, very powerful. All right, so thanks for watching. Check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation, and we'll see you soon.